The sweat soaking through the back of my tank top hadn't even started to cool by the time I pushed my way onto the evening rush hour L train. The car was packed shoulder to shoulder, the air thick and stale, but I was used to it. As a dedicated gym rat, discipline was etched into my bones. Every day after work, without fail, I hit the weights for 2 hours before taking this crowded train home. For me, the deep ache in my muscles was a strange kind of bliss. As I gripped the overhead bar, letting my mind go blank with the rocking of the train, an ad on the digital screen across the car caught my eye. Scan to follow and receive a free case of imported creatine. Creatine. And it was free. My eyes lit up. That stuff was gold, a killer supplement for muscle growth and recovery. And it wasn't cheap. I had no idea what brand it was, but who was I to turn down a freebie? Almost on autopilot, I freed one hand and pulled my phone from my pocket. The train lurched, and I braced myself, unlocking the screen and opening my camera to scan the code. The ad was on the wall of the car, directly opposite me. The QR code was pretty big, so I just angled my body slightly to make sure my camera could get a clean shot. The very instant my phone's screen lit up, and the camera focused on the square of black and white pixels. Crack! A sharp, stinging sound. It wasn't my phone hitting the floor. It was my face. My left cheek erupted in a fiery blaze, like it had been seared with a hot iron. The blow wasn't powerful, but caught me right on the ear, making my head ring. I stumbled, completely stunned. Clutching my face, I whipped my head around in disbelief. Standing in front of me was a strange woman, maybe in her mid-20s, wearing a simple dress. Her face was a mask of contempt and rage, her eyes bugging out as she glared at me. "What the hell is your problem?" The woman, far from showing any remorse, planted her hands on her hips and raised her voice, a shrill sound that cut through the train's dull roar. "My problem? You have the nerve to ask me what my problem is." She pointed a finger at my nose, her spittle practically hitting my face. "You disgusting creep, secretly recording me in public. You're vile. Filthy. You people have no respect for women. Don't you even see women as human beings? What the hell?" Recording her. My mind raced, trying to process the sudden accusation. I was just scanning the QR code for the creatine ad. My phone's camera wasn't even pointed in her direction. "You've got all wrong. I was scanning the QR code on that ad." I snapped back, trying to keep my temper in check as I pointed to the screen behind her. The eyes of the surrounding passengers instantly swiveled to me, feeling like 1,000 tiny needles on my skin. A low murmur started to build. Some people frowned. Others looked on with morbid curiosity, and more than a few had already quietly raised their phones, cameras aimed in our direction. "Wrong," the woman sneered, her expression twisting into something even uglier. "Keep pretending. We all know what you perverts are up to, pretending to scan something when you're really just recording women, and you always pick crowded places to do it. I've been watching you." Her voice grew louder, more frantic, as if I were some kind of serial predator caught in the act. "That's bullshit." The spot where she'd hit me was still burning, and a dark rage was boiling up inside me. To be publicly slapped and then branded with such a disgusting label. Who could tolerate that? I have the history right here on my phone. Want to see? I held up my phone, desperate to prove my innocence. "See what? How do I know you didn't just delete it? Or how many you've already taken?" She gave me no chance to explain, instead doubling down. "Everyone look, this man is a pervert. I caught him red-handed and he won't even admit it." Her shouting drew in more onlookers, and the chatter grew louder. "He looks like such a normal guy. How could he do something like that? Kids these days. Did he really do it? That woman doesn't look like she's lying. Who knows? Let's wait for the cops." The voices buzzed in my ears like a swarm of flies. The suspicion, the contempt, the barely veiled excitement from the drama seekers. It made me feel like I'd been stripped naked and put on display. I stared hard at the woman, the look of righteous indignation on her face, the perfect performance of victim, made my stomach turn. A secret photographer? Me? Leo Carter, 5 years of dedicated gym time, built like a brick house. I wasn't a male model, but I was clean-cut and confident. Why would I need to resort to something so pathetic? The fire in my chest was now a raging inferno, threatening to burn through the last of my self-control. I could feel my hands trembling, not from fear, but from pure, unadulterated rage. An impulse to utterly destroy the lying, hysterical face in front of me was growing stronger by the second. Kill her. The thought appeared out of nowhere, cold and sharp. I looked at her twisted face, her blazing eyes, the mouth that wouldn't stop spewing poison. I see you as a person, but not as a woman. I see you as a lunatic. A goddamn liar. Flashes of phone cameras flickered in my peripheral vision. I knew this moment was being recorded. My anger, my defense, it was all useless against this woman's shrill accusations and the gawking crowd. I took a deep breath, forcing down the murderous impulse that was threatening to boil over. The pain on my cheek was a stark reminder of what had just happened, and the woman was still ranting, loudly proclaiming my crimes. That cold, murderous rage didn't vanish. It solidified, becoming a heavy, molten rock in the pit of my stomach. The stinging pain on my cheek, the woman's piercing accusations, the suspicious and contemptuous glares from the crowd. They were like red-hot needles, stabbing at my nerves again and again. I watched her, still playing the part of the innocent victim, her face distorted with a self-righteous fury. The fire burning through my reason was almost too much to bear. I tried to calm myself, telling myself to ignore it, and a cold, contemptuous smirk pulled at my lips without me even realizing it. Ew, my smile seemed to provoke her even more. Her eyes went wide, spittle flying. You dare to smile? You people are. She raised her hand again, apparently ready to slap me a second time, to prove her innocence and my guilt with more violence. The moment her wrist flicked upward, my body reacted faster than my brain. Crack! Another sharp slap, but this one was louder, cleaner, and far more decisive. The entire train car fell silent, as if someone had hit a mute button. Time seemed to freeze. It wasn't my face this time. It was hers. I had backhanded her with all the stored-up humiliation and fury from her first slap. The blow landed squarely on her left cheek, sending her stumbling backward, nearly falling over. A young woman standing behind her, who looked like she might be her friend, caught her just in time. She was stunned. Absolutely, completely stunned. Clutching her rapidly swelling cheek, she stared at me with wide, disbelieving eyes. The fire in them was gone, replaced by shock, humiliation, and a flicker of something else. Fear? It was clear she had never imagined that a man she'd labeled a creep would dare, in front of everyone, to hit her back. In her experience, or maybe in the fabricated stories she was used to telling, men accused of such things were supposed to either stammer out a defense or shrink away in shame. A man hitting a woman? That was a cardinal sin. The other passengers were just as shocked. The murmuring crowd was now dead silent. All eyes were on me, their expressions more complex than before, shock, confusion, and maybe even a secret, shameful thrill at the unfolding drama. The people who had been filming held their phones steadier now. I shook my tingling hand and met her incredulous gaze, the cold smirk on my face widening. There! Do you feel respected now? My voice wasn't loud, but it was crystal clear, laced with an icy mockery that cut through the silence, reaching her ears and the ears of everyone else listening. Hurts, doesn't it? I stared at her cheek, where a bright red handprint was already beginning to form. Good. I leaned in slightly, my voice dropping, but losing none of its bite. You said I don't respect women. I paused, letting the words hang in the air. Well, I'm a big believer in equal rights. And lefts. The twisted wordplay, a poison dagger, struck the very heart of her respect women accusation. Chloe's body began to tremble, whether from rage or the impact, I couldn't tell. She kept her hand pressed to her face, her lips quivering, unable to utter a single word. Her eyes, however, looked like they wanted to tear me apart. I took half a step closer, looming over her, and continued in that same cold, mocking tone. What's wrong? Not enough. Do you need me to respect you again? See? With just one slap, you've received my undivided attention. You feel seen as a person now, don't you? Every word I spoke was like pouring gasoline on the fire she had started. You just wait. Her friend finally snapped out of her stupor. She held onto the swaying Chloe and shot a weak, fearful glare in my direction. Ding-dong. Right on cue, the train's arrival chime sounded. The doors slid open, letting in a gust of comparatively fresh air from the platform. "Let's go." The friend grabbed Chloe and practically dragged her toward the open doors in a desperate retreat. Just before she was pulled out of the car, Chloe whipped her head around. Her eyes were filled with a venomous hatred and fury, and she glared at me as if trying to carve my face in her memory. "You just wait. I'm not letting this go," she shrieked, her voice cracking with tears, before her friend finally yanked her out into the crowd of disembarking passengers. The doors slid shut, cutting off her and the noise of the platform. The train car was deathly quiet. Every single person was still staring at me. I slowly pulled my gaze back, took a deep breath of the stale air, and managed to quell the inferno still raging in my chest. My own cheek still throbbed, but somehow the pain felt less intense now. I glanced down at my hand. That slap had been solid. "Not letting this go," I thought with a cold, humorless smile. "We'll see about that." 03. The dead silence from the train last night seemed to linger into the morning. The faint ache on my cheek where she'd slapped me hadn't completely faded, and her final, venomous glare was stuck in my mind like a thorn. Not letting this go. Huh. I was curious to see what she had in mind. After my morning routine, I habitually grabbed my phone to scroll through local news sites and Twitter. The moment I opened the app, a series of bolded, trending headlines jumped out at me. Shocking. Subway pervert lashes out, viciously attacks woman who confronted him. Video. Man caught secretly filming on L train beats female passenger. Justice may be delayed, but never denied. My heart sank. I clicked on one of the threads. The first thing I saw was a photo, taken from a deliberately misleading angle. It showed me on the train, phone in hand, just as I was leaning to scan the QR code. Because of the train's movement and my posture, it looked like my phone was aimed directly at the woman. The dim lighting and my focused expression made me look blurry, almost leering. Beneath the photo was a long, emotional post, a work of pure fiction. The author was, of course, the woman from the train, who I now knew was named Chloe Miller. She had painted herself as the perfect victim, a brave woman who stood up to harassment only to be met with brutal violence. She gave a detailed account of how I had creepily taken out my phone, aimed it at her for a long time, and then played dumb when she caught me. She claimed that after her righteous confrontation, I flew into a violent rage and beat her mercilessly. Well, she framed it as savagely slapped me across the face. She emphasized her fear, her helplessness, and the deep physical and emotional trauma from a slap. Every sentence was crafted to portray her as a delicate flower weathering a storm, and me as a depraved, violent monster. What made me sick to my stomach was her replies to the comments, where she tearfully claimed she had only gently tapped him to get his attention, only to be met with such a cruel and violent reprisal. I stared at her black and white version of reality, a wave of nausea washing over me. Gently tapped him. That slap nearly knocked me off my feet. The comment section below the post was an absolute dumpster fire. WTF. In broad daylight. This guy needs to be arrested and locked up. He looks so normal on the outside. You'd never guess he was such a disgusting creep. My heart goes out to this poor woman. She was brave enough to speak out and got assaulted for it. What is wrong with the world? Ladies, please be careful out there and protect yourselves. And then the classic, infuriating argument started to appear. Commenter, why would any woman lie about something like this? You have to believe her. Commenter B, look, putting the facts aside for a second, even if she was wrong to hit him, is the guy completely blameless here? Why was he standing so close with his phone out? Commenter C, he obviously hit her because he was guilty. A normal person wouldn't attack a woman like that. Commenter D, there's a photo and a video. What more proof do you need? It's an open-end shut case. The so-called proof was that one deceptive photo and a maliciously edited video clip. The video only showed the moment I slapped Chloe back, followed by a shot of her crying and clutching her face. It completely omitted the context, the argument, and, most importantly, the part where she hit me first. My name, my photo, blurry but recognizable to anyone who knew me, and even the name of my gym had been doxxed and plastered all over the internet. Rage, hot as lava, churned in my gut, threatening to erupt. I gripped my phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. My phone buzzed. It was a text from a guy I knew from the gym. Leo dude, is this you? He attached a link to the Twitter thread. More messages started pouring in from friends. Their tones varied. Some were concerned, some were questioning, and some were clearly just enjoying the drama. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down. Anger wouldn't solve anything. It would only make me reckless. Chloe had played her hand beautifully, and she had successfully ignited a public firestorm. I couldn't afford to lose my cool now. I put my phone down and went to my computer. I opened my browser and started searching for all the posts that feature my picture and the twisted version of the story. Local blogs, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. I wouldn't miss a single one. I began taking screenshots. From Chloe's original post to every inflammatory, defamatory comment beneath it. The private messages from so-called internet warriors, filled with threats and curses. I saved every single one, organizing them into folders. Screenshot, save. Screenshot, save. The sound of the mouse clicking was sharp in the quiet room. My face was a stoic mask, but my eyes grew colder with each click. No woman would lie about this. Putting the facts aside, I barely tapped him. Fine, that's fine. You all love to speak out, do you? You love perching on your moral high ground, passing judgment. I looked at Chloe's innocent profile picture on the screen, then at the venomous comments below it. A slow, cold smile spread across my face, dripping with mockery. I'll let you hear what real speaking out sounds like. This whole circus was about to have its final act, and I was going to be the one to bring down the curtain. Public opinion is a powerful tool, but for an ordinary person, the law is the only real shield. When a story gets this hot and the narrative is this twisted, eventually the authorities have to step in to set the record straight. I saved the last screenshot and stretched my stiff fingers. 04. I had underestimated the speed of the internet. Or perhaps I had underestimated how far some people would go for clicks and a warped sense of justice. Overnight, the hashtag Subway Creeper Slaps Woman had gone viral. I couldn't save screenshots fast enough. New posts and video clips were popping up every minute. Several large meme accounts and a few verified influencers who styled themselves as feminist advocates had jumped on the bandwagon, sharing the story with their massive followings. They added their own sensationalized commentary, hammering nails into my public coffin. Toxic masculinity, classic misogynist, a violent predator in the making, they threw every label they could think of at me. With every refresh, I saw new insults and death threats. Then I saw the interview. It was posted by a small-time local news vlogger. The thumbnail was a close-up of Chloe's face, tear-streaked and pitiful. I clicked play. The setting was a coffee shop, with soft lighting designed to make her look even more fragile and helpless. She spoke to the camera in a choked-up voice, her eyes red and swollen. She dabbed at her dry eyes with a tissue. I just wanted to ask him to stop. As a woman, when you see a camera pointed at you like that, it's terrifying. She sobbed. I just gently tapped his arm to get him to put his phone away. Gently tapped his arm. A humorless laugh almost escaped my lips. That slap still made my ear ring. And now she was calling it a gentle tap? I never thought he would react like that. She covered her face, her shoulders shaking. He hit me so hard. The doctor said I have a mild concussion. Right on cue, she pulled a crumpled piece of paper from her purse. The camera zoomed in for a blurry close-up. You could just make out the name of a hospital and the word concussion. It had to be fake, or a massive exaggeration. I'd hit her, sure, but hard enough for a concussion, not unless she was made of glass. The off-screen interviewer then asked a leading question. Did he try to explain himself at all? Did he ever say he wasn't filming you? Chloe's eyes widened, as if the question had inflicted a fresh wound. Explain? He didn't explain anything. If he had nothing to hide, if he wasn't secretly recording me, why didn't he speak up for himself? Why didn't he show me his phone to prove his innocence? Instead, he just hit me. What does that tell you? It tells you he's guilty. Why didn't I speak up for myself? I didn't have time to show her proof because she came at me like a rabid animal and slapped me. I hit her back out of pure, defensive rage after being assaulted and slandered, and now she was twisting it, using my reaction as the ultimate proof of my guilt. The comment section under the video was a maelstrom of fury. See, she has a doctor's note. Are people still trying to defend him? This guy is unbelievably arrogant. He thinks he can get away with anything. I hope she sues him for everything he's worth. He didn't speak up because he's a creep, and he knows it. My phone began to vibrate uncontrollably, not with texts from friends, but with calls and messages from unknown numbers. Garbage human. Hope you get hit by a bus. I know where you live. Watch your back. Scumbags like you should be castrated. Post his address. Let's go teach him a lesson. Threats, insults, curses. A tidal wave of filth flooded my inbox. Someone even sent me a distorted, grotesque picture of my face with insulting captions scrawled over it. They were actively doxing me. I turned off the ringer and notifications and threw the phone aside. The apartment was deathly quiet, save for the faint hum of traffic from the street below. I didn't feel scared, just a cold, sharp anger and a chilling sense of calm. They wanted me to speak out, did they? I picked up my burner phone and dialed the customer service number for the Chicago Transit Authority I had looked up the night before. Hello, I'd like to request the security footage from yesterday evening on the northbound Brown line between the Merchandise Mart and Fullerton stops, specifically from car number XX, near the front. The operator took down my information and the details of the incident, explaining that it would have to go through a formal process, but they would get back to me soon. After hanging up, I opened my laptop and typed into the search bar, Defamation and Online Harassment Lawyer Chicago. I scrolled through a few firms, looking for ones with good reviews and experience in cases like mine. I found a lawyer who seemed sharp and specialized in this area and dialed his number. Hello, Mr. Davis? My name is Leo Carter. I need to consult with you about a case involving online defamation and harassment. I scheduled a meeting with him for the following afternoon. After I was done, I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes. In her interview, Chloe had asked, why didn't he speak out? The keyboard warriors hiding behind their screens were screaming, if you're innocent, stand up for yourself. Speak out? Oh, I will. I'll speak out with the law, with hard evidence, and in a way that none of them will ever see coming. This won't be a whisper, it'll be thunder. Just wait. 05. After getting off the phone with the lawyer, the knot in my stomach loosened slightly, but the fire of suppressed rage was still burning, looking for a way out. Chloe and all those trolls celebrating behind their screens. You want me to speak out? Just wait. The next afternoon, I was right on time for my appointment at Mr. Davis's office. He looked to be in his 40s, with a sharp suit and an even sharper gaze that radiated competence. Mr. Carter, please have a seat, he said, gesturing to a chair as his assistant brought us water. I cut right to the chase, showing him the organized files of screenshots, links, and Chloe's shamelessly dishonest interview video. Mr. Davis reviewed everything quickly, his expression calm and unreadable. Only when he saw the mild concussion document and Chloe's tearful performance did his mouth twitch almost imperceptibly. I have a clear picture of the situation, he said, setting down his tablet. Ms. Miller's actions constitute defamation. The online users who engaged in personal attacks, spread false information, and participated in doxing and threatening you are also legally liable. I nodded. That was exactly what I wanted to hear. Just then, my burner phone rang. It was the CTA. Mr. Carter, hello. The security footage you requested is ready. Would it be a good time for you to come in to review and get a copy? I can be there right now, I said, my voice sharper with an eagerness I couldn't hide. After explaining the situation to Mr. Davis, he agreed it was a crucial piece of evidence and urged me to get it as soon as possible. An hour later, I was sitting in the CTA's security office, my eyes glued to a monitor. The footage was clear, clearer than I could have ever hoped for. There I was, standing near the articulated joint of the train car. I pulled out my phone and aimed it at the ad on the wall next to me. The light from my phone screen was obvious, and the angle and distance showed without a shadow of a doubt that my camera was nowhere near Chloe. The whole action of scanning the code took maybe 3 seconds. The moment I started to put my phone away, Chloe stormed over, her mouth moving rapidly, and then, crack, the monitor clearly captured the moment her hand flew up and struck my face. The force, the speed, it was nothing like the gentle tap on the arm she described. The footage continued, showing me recoiling in shock, the ensuing argument, Chloe raising her hand as if to strike again, and then me, consumed by rage, retaliating with a backhand of my own. Crack! That second slap was recorded just as clearly. The entire sequence, from beginning to end, every frame intact. This was the smoking gun. I had acted in self-defense. I had the technician make 2 copies of the complete, unedited video file, one for the police if needed, and one for the court. Walking out of the CTA building, the afternoon sun fell harsh, but my mind was crystal clear. I immediately drove back to Mr. Davis's office with the video. He watched the footage, his calm expression unchanged, but his eyes seemed to gleam. Perfect was all he said. Mr. Carter, this security footage is the decisive piece of evidence. It not only proves your innocence, but also proves that Chloe Miller lied, committed malicious defamation, and was the initial aggressor. He paused, then continued. My recommendation is to not only sue Ms. Miller for defamation, but to simultaneously file suits against the primary accounts and individuals who fanned the flames online. Those who made malicious comments, leaked your personal information, and caused the most damage. For example, the commenter A and commenter B you screenshotted, and those influencers. Make them all share the blame. I asked. Exactly, Davis nodded. The internet is not a lawless place. Freedom of speech does not mean the freedom to slander and incite a mob. We need to make every single participant pay a price. That is the only way to fully clear your name and to serve as a warning to others. Do it. Let's proceed exactly as you've advised, I said, my voice firm. Over the next few days, I worked with Davis to organize all the evidence into a bulletproof case. The complete subway footage, screenshots of Chloe's post, her interview video, the vile comments, the doxing, the threats. It formed an unbreakable chain of evidence. Meanwhile, the online noise hadn't died down. Chloe and her supporters were still active, likely emboldened by my silence, becoming even more smug. What happened to that guy? Hasn't said a word. Must be guilty, right? Exactly. If he wasn't a creep, he would have spoken up by now. He's just hiding. He's probably just scared, hoping this will all blow over. We have to keep the pressure on everyone. Don't let a scumbag like this get away with it. Chloe herself even posted again on Twitter, implying she had been threatened but would never back down to evil, casting herself as a brave warrior fighting against violence. Watching these clowns perform, I could only laugh. Soon after, Mr. Davis, on my behalf, officially sent out cease and desist letters to Chloe, commenter A, commenter B, and the most vocal of the influencers. The letters were professionally worded, demanding they remove all infringing content within a specified period and issue a public apology on the same platforms to mitigate the damage. However, these legally binding letters were met with utter silence. Actually, that's not entirely true. Commenter A, after receiving the letter, took a screenshot of it and posted it online with the caption, "Ooh, looks like I hit a nerve. Trying to scare me with a letter? Sue me if you have the guts." The influencer, the self-proclaimed feminist advocate, posted a snide remark. Just received a letter from a certain subway creeper's lawyer. It seems some people feel no shame and now want to use the legal system to silence their critics. We'll be watching. Chloe's camp was completely silent, as if she'd never received it at all. It appears they've mistaken a legal notice for toilet paper, Davis said calmly over the phone. Then let's show them it's not, I replied coldly. I prepared the lawsuit. We can file with the court at any time. File it, Mr. Davis, I said, looking at the arrogant posts on my screen, at Chloe's deceitful face. It's time they learned what it means to reap what you sow. They thought I was bluffing. 06 Mr. Davis was right. To Chloe and that mob of online trolls, the cease and desist letters were less valuable than toilet paper. Commenter A had even mockingly posted a redacted screenshot of the letter with the caption, "Ooh, looks like I hit a nerve. Trying to scare me with a letter? Sue me if you have the guts." Fine, I'll sue. Without any further hesitation, I officially filed a lawsuit with the court. Chloe Miller, the relentlessly obnoxious commenter A and commenter B, and the influencer with the feminist advocate bio were all named as defendants. Defamation and harassment. Not one of them was getting away. The lawsuit was filed, the court accepted the case, and summonses were delivered to their doors. Sure enough, a few days later, the internet was buzzing again. Commenter A posted a redacted photo of his court summons, his tone dripping with sarcasm. LOL, he actually did it? Everyone, get ready to watch him pay my legal fees. I'll consider compensation for my emotional distress. The influencer reposted it with his own snide commentary. It seems the subway creeper is determined to waste the court's time. Fine, I'll play along. This will be a good opportunity for everyone to see his case get thrown out. Chloe didn't post anything herself, but her fan groups and supporter accounts were filled with mockery, calling me delusional, desperate, and pathetically trying to use a lawsuit to save face. They seemed absolutely convinced that I had no evidence, that their mob mentality was invincible, and that public opinion was the same as justice. Watching these clowns perform only made the fire in my chest burn hotter, yet my mind grew colder and clearer. We'll see you in court. On the day of the hearing, I wore a dark, casual suit. I had a clean shave and my hair was neatly combed. I wanted to look sharp, to not give them an inch, even in appearance. The courtroom was small, with only a few people in the gallery, some of whom were clearly reporters or bloggers, notebooks and phones in hand. The air was thick with a tense, solemn silence. Chloe and her friend sat at the defendant's table with their lawyer, a slick-looking middle-aged man who was whispering something to her. Chloe looked pale, her eyes darting around nervously. The confident, wronged victim persona from the internet was nowhere to be seen. Commenter A and the influencer were at another table, still wearing smirks, as if this were all just a big joke. I took a deep breath and sat at the plaintiff's table next to Mr. Davis. He was calm, arranging his files neatly on the table and giving me a reassuring nod. The trial began. The judge banged the gavel, and Mr. Davis stood up. His voice was steady and strong as he began to lay out the case and present the evidence. The defendant, Chloe Miller, on the evening of date, on a Chicago Brown Line train, without cause, accused the plaintiff, Leo Carter, of secretly recording her. After the plaintiff attempted to explain, she initiated a physical assault by slapping him across the face. He started by showing the photos of my bruised cheek, the redness still visible. Then came the screenshots of Chloe's fabricated story online and the clip of her tear-soaked interview. The defendant, Chloe Miller, knowingly published false and defamatory information on public platforms, maliciously manipulating public opinion to accuse the plaintiff of harassment and assault, thereby causing severe damage to the plaintiff's reputation. Chloe's lawyer immediately jumped up to object, spouting nonsense about reasonable suspicion, preventing a potential crime, and an emotional overreaction. Mr. Davis ignored him and continued. The defendants, commenter A, commenter B, and influencer's name, with full knowledge of the facts were unverified, maliciously reposted, commented, and used insulting language to attack the plaintiff, even inciting online harassment and leaking the plaintiff's personal information. Screenshot after screenshot of vicious comments, death threats, and posts encouraging people to find me in real life were displayed on the large screen in the courtroom. The smirks on the faces of commenter A and the influencer began to fade. They shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Then came the critical moment. Mr. Davis turned to the judge. Your Honor, the plaintiff now requests that the court view a piece of evidence legally obtained from the Chicago Transit Authority, the complete, unedited security footage from inside the train car at the time of the incident. A hush fell over the courtroom. All eyes turned to the large screen. It lit up, and a clear image appeared. There I was, standing near the train's articulated joint. I took out my phone. The screen was on, and the camera was clearly aimed at the QR code on the ad to my side. The action was brief, a few seconds at most. Just as I was about to put my phone away, Chloe stormed into the frame, her mouth moving angrily. And then, crack! The sharp sound of the slap echoed through the courtroom speakers, startlingly loud. On the screen, I stumbled back, clutching my face. In the courtroom, Chloe flinched violently, her body trembling. The color drained from her face, leaving it a pasty white. She stared at the screen in horror, her lips trembling. Her lawyer froze, his mouth hanging open. The video kept playing. It showed me yelling back in anger, Chloe planting her hands on her hips and shouting even louder in a crowd gathering. Then, Chloe raised her hand again, preparing to strike me a second time. Just as her arm was halfway up, crack, an even louder slap. The one I delivered. The complete, unedited truth was laid bare for everyone to see. Chloe started it. She was the aggressor. My action was a reaction, a furious response after being slandered and physically assaulted by someone who was about to do it again. When the video ended, the courtroom was utterly silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Everyone's gaze shifted from the screen to Chloe Miller. Her face was now paler than a ghost, her lips quivering, her eyes filled with terror and despair. She stared at the blank screen as if trying to will the images away. The slick lawyer next to her was sweating profusely, dabbing at his forehead with a handkerchief. He was clearly blindsided by the existence of such definitive proof. Commenter A and the influencer were shell-shocked. The last traces of their arrogance had vanished, replaced by disbelief and a creeping fear. They had probably never imagined that the righteous cause they had championed was built on such a blatant lie. Order! The judge banged the gavel, breaking the suffocating silence. Chloe's lawyer, trying to compose himself, stood up. His voice was strained. Your Honor, while the security footage has been shown, it does not entirely negate my client's subjective experience of the time. She genuinely felt threatened and in a moment of panic. A moment of panic gives her the right to assault someone. Mr. Davis shot back, his voice low but sharp. The footage clearly shows that the plaintiff's phone was never aimed at the defendant. The defendant rushed over and struck him without any attempt at a conversation. What kind of panic is that? Chloe suddenly burst out, jumping to her feet and pointing at me, her voice shrill. It was his posture, his eyes. I just knew he was filming me. I was just trying to stop him. I only tapped him. He's the one who overreacted. Tapped him, Mr. Davis said with a cold laugh. He brought up the photo of my swollen, red cheek. Does this look like the result of a tap? The blow landed on his ear. The plaintiff experienced dizziness and tinnitus afterward, and we have the initial medical report to prove it. This blow struck his ear, Your Honor. In martial arts, a strike to the ear is considered a potentially lethal technique. If the plaintiff wasn't a physically fit individual, the consequences could have been far more severe. He submitted a copy of the medical report to the court. Conversely, the defendant, Ms. Miller, Davis continued, his gaze locking onto her, claimed in a public interview that the plaintiff gave her a mild concussion and even showed a supposed doctor's note. So, I asked the defendant, which hospital and which doctor provided you with this diagnosis? Are you willing to submit this proof to the court for verification? Chloe froze, her eyes darting away as she stammered, unable to answer. Her supposed concussion diagnosis was exposed as a pathetic lie in the face of the video evidence and my own medical report. Ms. Miller, Davis pressed on, his voice rising, does your feeling give you the right to publicly assault someone and then maliciously defame them and twist the facts afterward? Is your gentle tap the same as the unrestrained slap we all just witnessed on that video? And is your mild concussion real or a complete fabrication? Each question was a hammer blow, striking not only at Chloe, but at the entire false narrative that had been built around her. Chloe stood there, her mouth open, her face shifting from white to a sickly green. Mr. Davis's questions hung in the silent courtroom like icicles. I don't know. Chloe's voice was a barely audible tremor. She looked desperately at her lawyer, as if he were her last hope. The slick lawyer, now completely stripped of his composure, had beads of sweat running down his temples. Your Honor, my client was in an emotionally agitated state. Her memory of the event may be flawed. Regarding the concussion diagnosis, he trailed off, clearly unable to invent a plausible explanation. Flawed memory? Mr. Davis's voice was cold and relentless. Is her memory flawed about the fact that she struck first? Is it flawed about her malicious campaign of defamation and incitement on the internet? Or is it flawed about that fictitious doctor's note? With every question, the last bit of color drained from Chloe's face. Her friend, the one who had yelled at me on the train, now sat with her head bowed, refusing to look at anyone. At the other defendant's table, commenter A and the influencer looked physically ill. They had never imagined that their righteous keyboard crusade was in service of a fraud, or that they would be held accountable for their part in my public lynching. The influencer's face was a mottled red and white, his eyes darting around the room. Chloe's lawyer made one last, desperate attempt. The plaintiff also struck my client. The video shows that. That is correct, Mr. Davis conceded calmly, before twisting the knife. However, it is crucial to note that the plaintiff only retaliated after the defendant, Chloe Miller, had already assaulted him and was attempting to do so a second time. His action was a direct result of being attacked and slandered. The defendant's actions, on the other hand, were unprovoked assault followed by malicious defamation. The nature of these two acts is entirely different. Mr. Davis was methodical and precise. He presented the complete video, my medical report, Chloe's fabricated posts, her interview, and the screenshots of the online harassment, creating an airtight case. Chloe's lawyer was left speechless, reduced to muttering about emotional distress and subjective feelings, arguments that crumbled in the face of hard evidence. The hearing lasted for nearly an hour, and it was a complete rout. I could feel a shift in the courtroom. The people in the gallery, who might have initially come with prejudice or morbid curiosity, were now looking at me with expressions of sympathy and understanding. The reporters were scribbling furiously in their notebooks. The court called for a recess. As Mr. Davis and I walked out into the hallway, Chloe and her lawyer hurried over to us. Mr. Carter, Mr. Carter. The lawyer intercepted us, a smile on his face that was more painful than a grimace. A misunderstanding. This is all just a huge misunderstanding. Chloe, she's young. She acted impulsively. Chloe stood behind him, head down, her shoulders trembling. She looked like she wanted to speak, but couldn't find the words. If you have something to say, your lawyer can speak to my lawyer, I said, my face a mask of indifference. Mr. Carter, look, making a big scene out of this isn't good for anyone, right? The lawyer pleaded, wringing his hands. We are willing to compensate you for your damages. Medical bills, emotional distress, we can discuss a number. As long as you're willing to drop the lawsuit, we can settle this privately. What do you say? Settle? A bitter laugh almost escaped my lips. I thought about how she had systematically tried to destroy my life online, how she had gleefully incited a mob to hunt me down. Now that she was cornered with irrefutable proof, she thought she could just buy her way out of it. Mr. Davis, I said, not even looking at them, my demands have not changed from the very beginning. A public apology, a full retraction to restore my reputation, and for every single person who slandered me to be held legally accountable. Mr. Davis nodded, then turned to the other lawyer. My client's position is clear. We'll see you back in court. With that, we walked away, leaving them standing in the hallway. I could hear the lawyer's frantic whispers and Chloe's muffled sobs behind me, but I didn't even bother to look back. Back at his office, Mr. Davis's phone rang. After a brief conversation, he hung up and smiled at me. Mr. Carter, the tide is starting to turn online. He handed me his phone. Several local news outlets had already posted brief articles about the day's hearing. While the headlines were neutral, the content clearly stated that the security footage showed Chloe striking me first and cast serious doubt on her concussion claim. The comment sections of the influencers and meme accounts that had championed her cause were now flooded with questions. Wait, the video is real. The girl hit him first, told you all to wait for the facts before jumping to conclusions. So the concussion was a lie. Wow, what a piece of work. The most ironic part was when I checked the page of commenter, the one who had taunted me to sue me if you have the guts. He had quietly deleted every single post he had made about the incident. The feminist advocate influencer had also taken down her condescending article, trying to erase the evidence. Too late. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was from commenter B. Leo, man, I'm so sorry. I was an idiot. I just got caught up in the outrage and wasn't thinking. I apologize. Please, I'm begging you, just let me off the hook. An apology. Now, where was this remorse when he was happily joining the mob to tear me down? I screenshotted the text and sent it to Mr. Davis. A half-hearted apology like this means nothing, Davis said after a glance. Don't worry. He's not getting away with it. No, none of them were. Chloe, commenter A, commenter B, the influencer. Every single person who took part in this circus was going to face the consequences. I leaned back in the chair, looking out the window. I wondered what expression was on Chloe's face when she heard I had flatly refused to settle. Desperation? Or just pure, undiluted rage? My refusal to settle out of court had clearly sent shockwaves through Chloe's camp. I could only imagine her panic, the shock, the indignation, quickly curdling into hysterical despair. But her feelings were no longer my concern. When the trial resumed, Chloe's lawyer, as expected, tried a new tactic. Your Honor, "We have new witnesses to call to the stand," he announced, trying to inject some confidence into his voice, as if he'd just found a lifeline. Two young people, a man and a woman in their early 20s, were brought forward. They stood at the witness stand, avoiding my gaze, their eyes darting nervously around the room. "Witness, please describe what you saw on the day of the incident," Chloe's lawyer instructed. The young man, who had bleached blonde hair, cleared his throat and began to speak in a halting voice. Yeah, I was on that train pretty close by. I saw that guy," he said, gesturing at me. He was holding his phone up, pointing it at Chloe over there. He was being super creepy about it. The young woman next to him, wearing heavy makeup, nodded eagerly. "Yes, that's right. I saw it too. His phone's camera was aimed right at Chloe. We both thought he was acting weird." Their voices were low, but their words were delivered with a forced certainty, as if they were reciting lines from a script. I watched their pathetic performance, a smirk of pure contempt on my face. Mr. Davis rose, holding a tablet, displaying a still frame from the security footage. "Witness," he said, his voice calm but authoritative, "please direct your attention to the screen." The image showed the exact moment I took out my phone to scan the QR code. The angle, the distance, the bright screen, all perfectly clear. "Sir," Mr. Davis said to the blonde man, "you claim the plaintiff was creepily holding his phone up at the defendant. Can you please explain how that matches this image, where the plaintiff is clearly holding his phone for no more than a few seconds to scan a QR code on an advertisement? You also claim his phone was aimed right at Chloe. How do you reconcile that with the video evidence showing his phone was aimed at the ad? Are you testifying based on what you saw or what you thought you saw?" The young man's face turned beet red. I might have remembered it wrong, but he definitely filmed her. Why else would Chloe have hit him? "So, to be clear," Mr. Davis pressed, "you did not actually see the plaintiff filming anyone. You made an assumption, and because the defendant assaulted him, you worked backward to conclude that the plaintiff must have done something wrong." The witness stammered, unable to form a sentence. Mr. Davis then turned to the young woman. "Ma'am, you also claim to have seen the plaintiff's camera aimed at the defendant. Can you please tell the court where you were standing? Can you describe the specific angle of his phone? Because your testimony seems to be in direct contradiction with the security footage." The woman's face paled. She shot a desperate, pleading look at Chloe's lawyer. It was crowded. Maybe I saw it wrong." Mr. Davis's tone hardened. "Witnesses, testifying in a court of law means you are legally responsible for your statements. Perjury, providing false testimony, is a serious crime with severe consequences. Are you both certain you wish to stand by your initial statements?" The words "serious crime" and "consequences" landed like hammer blows. The two of them exchanged a terrified glance. The blonde man hung his head, and the young woman looked like she was on the verge of tears. Seeing this, Chloe swayed in her seat, the last vestiges of color draining from her face. Her lawyer's expression was thunderous as he shot a furious glare at his two useless witnesses. A pathetic attempt at perjury, and it had crumbled instantly. Just then, a commotion could be heard from outside the courtroom. "We support Chloe. Punish the pervert. Stop the violence. We want justice." It sounded like a small group had gathered outside, trying to stage a protest to support Chloe. The judge frowned and gestured for the bailiff to handle it. The noise outside quickly subsided. Their last-ditch efforts were failing, one after another. With the false witnesses discredited and the protest silenced, Chloe's lawyer shifted to his final, predictable strategy, the pity play. "Your Honor, my client, Chloe." She was scared. She genuinely felt violated, and she may have overreacted. His voice became soft and somber. Chloe, on cue, lowered her head, and her shoulders began to shake with suppressed sobs. Over the past few weeks, she has been under immense pressure. The attacks and harassment she has received online have pushed her to the breaking point. She is young, and she made a foolish mistake. We hope the court will consider the online harassment she has already endured and the difficulties this has caused in her life, and grant her a chance to make amends. She began to cry openly now, her sobs filling the courtroom. She looked like a fragile, broken victim, as if the person who had started the entire firestorm online was someone else entirely. She was no longer the aggressor, but a poor, helpless girl. Trying to win sympathy, it was disgusting. Mr. Davis had clearly anticipated this move. He waited for her crying to subside before speaking calmly. The defendant is now claiming to be a victim of online harassment as a result of a controversy she herself initiated through false and defamatory statements. Whether this is a valid mitigating factor, I trust the court will decide. He paused, then turned to me. Mr. Carter, regarding this matter, are you willing to make your first public statement? I nodded. It was time. I didn't need to scream or resort to emotional appeals. That night, Mr. Davis posted a formal statement from me on his professional social media accounts. It was concise and clinical, devoid of anger or accusation. It simply laid out the facts of the case in chronological order. How I was wrongly accused by Chloe, how she slapped me without provocation, how I only struck back when she tried to do it again. It detailed how her fabricated story and interview led to me being doxxed, threatened, and harassed by strangers. Every key point was supported by evidence, screenshots of her posts, the threats I received, all properly redacted. Most importantly, it included key still frames from the complete security footage, clearly showing Chloe striking first and the true angle of my phone. The statement ended with a single sentence. The law is impartial, and the facts are not open to interpretation. My only wish is to return to a normal life and to see that all those who fabricated stories, committed defamation, and incited harassment are held legally accountable for their actions. That statement was a depth charge dropped into a still lake. Within an hour, it had gone viral. Holy SHD. The video stills. She really did hit him first. His phone wasn't even pointing at her. He got assaulted for scanning a QR code. So that concussion story was a lie? This woman is an expert manipulator. I feel so bad for this guy. Falsely accused and then dragged through the mud for weeks. To everyone I argued with, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Sue them. Make every single one of them pay. Where's that influencer now? Where's commenter? Let's hear what they have to say. Public opinion had flipped completely and irrevocably. The posts calling for my head were now buried under an avalanche of new, rational voices. The influencers and accounts that had propped Chloe up found their comment sections overrun by people demanding apologies and accountability. I scrolled through the comments on my phone, watching as words of hate were replaced with "I'm sorry, we support you, and the truth is out." Chloe had once demanded to know why I wouldn't speak out. The keyboard warriors had dared me to stand up. Well, I had, and now the entire internet was speaking out for me. The day of the final verdict arrived under a heavy, gray sky that threatened rain. The air inside the courtroom felt even heavier than before. The gallery was packed with reporters and members of the public who had been following the case. Their faces were a mixture of curiosity, sympathy, and anticipation. Mr. Davis and I took our places at the plaintiff's table. He was calm and composed as he arranged his documents. At the defendant's table, Chloe looked like a ghost. Her face was ashen, with dark circles under her vacant eyes. She stared blankly ahead, seemingly oblivious to her lawyer, whispering anxiously beside her. Commenter A and the influencer were also present, their former arrogance replaced by a palpable dread. They sat slumped in their chairs, occasionally glancing nervously at the judge's bench. The judge entered, and a hush fell over the room as he struck the gavel. The verdict was about to be read. The judge's voice was clear and solemn, echoing through the silent courtroom. After a thorough review of the evidence, this court finds that the defendant, Chloe Miller, without sufficient evidence, did willfully and wrongfully accuse the plaintiff, Leo Carter, of illicitly recording her and did initiate a physical assault against the plaintiff. Furthermore, the defendant did subsequently publish distorted and defamatory statements on public online platforms and did knowingly expand the reach of these falsehoods through media interviews, thereby causing severe and demonstrable harm to the plaintiff's reputation. Every word landed like a physical blow. Chloe flinched, her body trembling violently as tears began to stream down her face. The court finds her actions constitute defamation. The defendants, commenter A, commenter B, and influencer's name, having engaged in the malicious reposting and commenting on unverified information, using insulting and abusive language, inciting online harassment, and leaking the plaintiff's private information are also found to have infringed upon the plaintiff's right to his reputation. Commenter A's head snapped up, his face a mask of disbelief. The influencer sank even lower in his seat, his shoulders shaking. The judge picked up the final judgment document. This court hereby rules as follows. 1. The defendant, Chloe Miller, is ordered, within 10 days of this judgment taking effect, to publish a formal public apology to the plaintiff, Leo Carter, on her personal Twitter account and on a designated media outlet for 3 consecutive days to eliminate the negative impact of her actions. 2. The defendant, Chloe Miller, is ordered, within 10 days of this judgment taking effect, to pay the plaintiff, Leo Carter, monetary damages for emotional distress in the amount of $XX, XXX, compensation for lost wages, and all associated legal fees. As the figures were read out, it was as if all the strength had been drained from Chloe's body. She went limp, nearly sliding out of her chair before her lawyer caught her. 3. The defendants, commenter A, commenter B, and influencer's name, are ordered, within 10 days of this judgment taking effect, to publish a formal public apology to the plaintiff, Leo Carter, to be pinned to the top of their respective online profiles for a period of no less than 7 days. 4. The defendants, commenter A, commenter B, and influencer's name, are ordered, within 10 days of this judgment taking effect, to jointly compensate the plaintiff, Leo Carter, for emotional distress in the amount of $XX, XXX. The final gavel fell with a heavy thud. "No, that's not right," Chloe shrieked, suddenly breaking free from her lawyer. She stumbled toward me, her face a mess of tears and snot. "Mr. Carter, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Please forgive me. I didn't mean it. I was just scared. Her words were a jumbled, hysterical mess, a stark contrast to her previous brave victim act. The bailiffs quickly stepped in and restrained her. She collapsed to the floor a few feet away from me, burying her face in her hands. Her body was racked with convulsive sobs. Her pleas of "I'm sorry, I was wrong, and please forgive me," choked and broken. I looked at her, my face devoid of expression. Forgive her? Did she ever consider forgiveness when she was trying to shove me into a social abyss for her own gratification? Did she think about my forgiveness during the countless nights I spent enduring the hatred of strangers, all because of her lie? How much of this tearful breakdown was genuine remorse, and how much was simply fear of the consequences? I glanced at Mr. Davis and gave a slight shake of my head. He understood. He stood and addressed the judge. "Your Honor, we respect and accept the court's verdict." I didn't spare Chloe another glance. I didn't respond to her cries. Some wounds can't be healed with a simple sorry. Some apologies come far too late and are worth far too little. After the hearing, Mr. Davis and I walked out of the courthouse. The sky was still overcast, but the air felt cleaner. Reporters swarmed us, but Mr. Davis politely fended them off. The verdict spread across the internet like wildfire. The influencers and platforms that had amplified the lies were now the targets of public scorn. Their comment sections exploded with accusations and mockery. Their credibility was shattered, and I later heard that several of them faced penalties from the platforms themselves. When I returned to my old gym to handle the last of my contract termination, the owner rushed over, his face a mask of awkward regret. "Leo, hey, about what happened. I'm really sorry. I saw all that stuff online and, alas, I was such an idiot." A few of my old gym buddies and colleagues, who had been avoiding me for weeks, now gathered around, offering their own clumsy apologies. "Leo, man, we were wrong. We never should have believed it. Yeah, man, we're morons. We just followed the mob. We're so sorry, Leo. You didn't deserve any of that." Looking at their guilty faces, I felt a strange mix of emotions. There was a flicker of relief at finally being vindicated, but it was overshadowed by a deep, lingering exhaustion and the scar tissue of betrayal that wouldn't easily fade. I managed a weak smile, my voice hoarse. "It's over. I didn't say I forgave them. I didn't say I didn't." The owner tried to say more, but I held up a hand to stop him. I just wanted this to be finished. I wanted to leave this place, once so familiar, now tainted with bad memories. I packed the last of my things into a box and walked out of the gym for the final time. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Mr. Davis, with a PDF of the final court judgment attached. I opened the file and stared at the lines detailing the monetary damages. The numbers were there in black and white, a symbol of legal justice. They represented a quantifiable value for everything I had lost and for everything that had been stolen from me.